1 year's free insurance and 24-hour replacement, should they lose their phone. Orange, the network that performs.
During the past 12 months, The Independent has become the newspaper you always knew it could be. But don't take our word for it.
Winner is The Independent.
A newspaper packed with news, quality writing, world-class photography, a daily review, and now with new sport and business sections. The Independent. Don't miss it.
How to Sell a House by Betty Crocker. Take a Betty Crocker cake, cookie or muffin mix and prepare as instructed on the packet. Then put in oven 20 minutes before your purchaser arrives, allowing the aroma to work its magic. Then, wait for the check. Betty Crocker, perfect results every time.
Computerised shows us what you look like in different frames, and you can wear your old glasses so it's easy to see which pair suits you best. Any questions? Mr. Hamilton?
You don't think I'm going to get double chin, do you?
Computerise at Dolland and Aitchison.
Now you can bring your mobile number to the network that performs. Call 0800 80 10 80.
This is Carlton, part of the ITV network.
Violence flares as loyalists admit killing leading Ulster lawyer. EU crisis, commissioners consider mass resignation tonight. Prince remembers the British servicemen who died in the Falklands. And Lennox Lewis looks ahead to the rematch with Holyfield.
From ITN, the ITV Nightly News with Dermot Monaghan.
Good evening. A renegade loyalist group, the Red Hand Defenders, said tonight they murdered a leading human rights lawyer in a bomb attack harking back to some of Northern Ireland's darkest days. Rosemary Nelson was blown up in her car as she drove from her home in County Armagh, apparently targeted because of her work for the nationalist community. After the attack, anger spilled onto the streets. Youths hurled petrol bombs at soldiers. Our Ireland correspondent, John Irvine, reports.
Tonight, petrol bombers targeted the police and army on duty close to the scene of the murder. Loyalists may have carried out the killing, but for these Catholic youths, the security forces are also a traditional enemy. The booby trap that killed Rosemary Nelson was positioned directly beneath the driver's seat. Although she was alive when she was cut from the wreckage and taken to hospital, she could not survive the horrific injuries she'd sustained.
And this is a dreadful attack, a disgraceful attack on a very well-known local solicitor and mother and member of the community here in Mid-Ulster.
Mrs. Nelson had travelled barely 50 yards from her home. Her youngest child, 8-year-old Sarah, was at school nearby and heard the explosion. Rosemary Nelson was a prominent solicitor who did much of her work on behalf of nationalists. In January, the blonde-haired Mrs. Nelson visited the Prime Minister in Downing Street in her capacity as lawyer for a nationalist residents group caught up in the long-running Drumcree dispute. In Lurgan this evening, several hundred protesters gathered outside the town's police station. Tonight, the anger felt by people here is all too evident, and the situation remains potentially volatile. The security forces here are prepared for more trouble should it materialise. But in terms of the peace process, the serious threat comes from more sinister elements who may be planning a response to today's murder. Peace in Northern Ireland, it seems, is far from assured. John Irvine, ITN, Lurgan.
The entire European Commission is teetering on the brink of mass resignation tonight, following a damning report that's uncovered widespread fraud and corruption. The Commission is meeting in emergency session now to discuss a motion from Britain's Sir Leon Britton that because the criticism is so strong, they should all go with honour. Here's ITN's political editor Michael Brunson.
What's been released tonight is a devastating attack on the whole gravy train, anything-goes culture which pervades so much of what goes on in Brussels. It's far worse than anyone expected. Of Jacques Santer and the Commission as a whole, it says, it's difficult to find anyone who has even the slightest sense of responsibility. Mr. Santer is said to have let one department, where fraud was discovered, operate like a state within a state. The former French Prime Minister Edith Cresson turned a blind eye to, quote, serious and continuing irregularities she knew about over a number of years. She and 2 other commissioners are found guilty of cronyism, giving jobs to their friends. An atmosphere of crisis has now gripped Brussels. The various leaders of the party groups in the European Parliament held an emergency meeting. It was the Parliament which commissioned the report after backing off drastic action in January. Now many MEPs are shocked and angry.
I believe that the whole Commission should stand down, and I believe that there is a general indictment which ought to have some sort of political responsibility. The Parliament, I believe, will actually, next week, vote down the Commission as a whole.
But things may move faster than that. Tonight the Commission is in emergency session behind closed doors. But their fate appears sealed, with the British leader of the largest group in the Parliament, the Socialists, also now saying that the whole Commission must quit.
Tonight, we, the leadership of the Socialist Group, are calling on the European Commission and President Santer to accept their responsibility for the conclusions of this report and to resign.
And if they don't, Mrs. Green said, the Socialists will begin immediate steps to try and force them out. Michael Brunson, ITN, Brussels.
Mike, what's happening there now?
Well, that meeting is still going on at the Commission. It started a couple of hours ago. No word at all from it at present. But as we said earlier, they do appear to be discussing this proposal from Sir Leon Britton that they should go with honour. And there's no surprise, really, you know. You look through this report, as I've been reading it in more detail during the course of the evening, and dripping from every page is every kind of irregularity. Things like printing contracts being handed out to firms that didn't put in the lowest tenders, relatives of other people, mother-in-laws, almost certainly wives being given jobs. It's all devastating stuff, and the Commission is really on the rack as a result of it.
So what's your guess, Mike? Will there be resignations tonight?
Well, the other alternative is that there may be a classic kind of attempt by Mr. Santer to hang on. If he goes to tomorrow, there are certain procedures that he can go through to try and hang on, but in the end it seems almost certain that it would go to the Parliament next Monday, and the Parliament is in a very, very tough mood to kick the Commission out.
Michael, thanks a lot. The mother of the murdered toddler James Bulger has said she's sickened at the ruling by the European Commission of Human Rights that his killers were denied a fair trial. Security cameras recorded James being taken from a shopping centre in Bootle 6 years ago, shortly before his murder. Robert Thompson and John Venables were convicted of the crime at Preston Crown Court. Today, the Commission said the criminal procedures in that adult court stopped the boys from effectively taking part in their own trial. And the then Home Secretary's involvement in sentencing further violated the boys' rights. But the Commission rejected claims that the trial amounted to inhuman and degrading treatment. America has warned Serbia again tonight to sign up to the Kosovo peace deal or face NATO airstrikes. It follows the resumption of peace talks in Paris, during which Kosovo's ethnic Albanians agreed to the deal. But while the talking went on, there came more evidence of the killing, as our Europe correspondent Bill Neely reports.
On a rocky hillside, another atrocity, staining the earth and straining the peace. Villagers took me to where 2 15-year-old boys and 2 men lay dead, killed, says the sole survivor, by Serbian police. They were ambushed while cutting wood. The real fear is that the violence is now spreading quickly across the land in between. Bombarding villages where this morning, they say, rebels attacked them with automatic weapons. Both the Serbs and the rebels who are fighting for Kosovo's independence were so visible today, it is hard to believe this is the day peace talks resume. The cost of Kosovo's conflict was measured in coffins today, as the victims of the weekend's 3 bombings were buried. The conflict is intensifying. Serbia is reinforcing its troops here. Artillery fire lighting up the evening sky. The fires from villages, the night sky. Fires across Kosovo, that will not easily be put out. Bill Neely, ITN, Butcherturn.
Marks & Spencer today became the latest food retailer to announce it's taking genetically modified foods off its shelves as soon as possible in response to consumer concern. A spokesman said that although Marks & Spencer thinks there is a place for GM foods, it wants to respect its customers' worries over the speed at which they're being pushed through. Environmental campaigners have welcomed the move. The Labour MP Joe Ashton has broken his silence over allegations that he'd been in a massage parlour during a raid by Northamptonshire police. Following reports in several newspapers, Mr. Ashton said he wanted to put certain facts right. He said, "I did not partake in or pay for any sexual services. I did not give inaccurate particulars to police, and reports that I did are misleading. The press reports can only have come from Northamptonshire Police, and I'm considering whether to ask for an investigation by the Police Complaints Authority." Prince Charles ended his tour of South America tonight with a tribute to the British servicemen who died during the Falklands conflict. He braved bad weather to travel to the scene of two of the bloodiest battles of 1982. Our royal correspondent Nicholas Owen reports.
At San Carlos Water, Bomb Alley, to the troops who fought here, Prince Charles paid tribute to Colonel H. Jones of the Parachute Regiment and cast a wreath into San Carlos Water itself. At Fitzroy Cove, he was joined by the mother of one of the Welsh Guardsmen who perished. It was one of the darkest episodes of the 1982 war. Sir Galahad ablaze, helicopter pilots, Prince Andrew among them, keeping the smoke away from the rescuers. Charles's day began at a school where lessons include how to avoid the many mines left by the Argentines. The royal visitor has had a great reception. So, have you enjoyed your visit to Falklands?
Very much, thank you. Last I got here, I never thought I would. Made it.
And before setting off for home, a chance to see bull elephant seals on Sea Lion Island. And penguins, hordes and hordes of them, as curious about the man who'd come to see them as he appeared to be about them. The Prince was obviously impressed with the wildlife. He told local people he'd like to come back and bring his sons William and Harry to see that and many other sights. Nicholas Owen, ITN, Port Stanley.
More than 100 vehicles have been involved in a major pile-up on a motorway in Belgium. At least 40 people were injured, 2 of them critically. Thick fog is being blamed. Police say those involved were lucky to escape with their lives. And there was another lucky escape, this time for 156 passengers and crew of a Korean aeroplane. It slid off the runway and broke into 2 during a landing at Pohang Airport in bad weather. Only 10 people needed treatment in hospital. Here, the disturbing problem of child abuse is about to be highlighted in a major new television advertisement, so hard-hitting it can only be shown after the 9 o'clock watershed. The NSPCC, who are behind it, say shock tactics are needed to break people's complacency. Here's Ben McCarthy.
This is the advert which is meant to shock.
I'm going to smash your face against that cot if you don't shut your screaming noise!
It shows childhood heroes shielding their eyes as children are heard being abused.
Come and sit over here. Not a word to anyone. This is going to be our little secret.
Those behind the campaign say they want everyone to realise that they have a part to play in preventing cruelty to children.
Every day in the United Kingdom, children are being abused. Every week, up to 2 children die from physical abuse or neglect, and it's time, it's our duty as the NSPCC to do something about this.
Launched tomorrow, the ad is part of the largest campaign ever undertaken by a charity, and it's the beginning of a long-term strategy by the NSPCC to end violence against children. Ben McCarthy, ITN.
The British boxing judge, whose vote threw the Lennox Lewis-Evander Holyfield world title fight into controversy, spoke about his decision today. Larry O'Connell said he'd called it as he saw it, and if he'd made a mistake, it was an honest mistake. It came as boxing's governing bodies ordered a rematch. John Draper reports.
In his bid to have Saturday's result overturned, Lewis is showing all the fight he displays in the ring. He doesn't just want a rematch, but a full inquiry, as he told me in his New York stretch limousine.
The whole sport's in disarray in one sense, and something should be done, something should be looked into, and I'm glad that those important people want to look into it.
He's my champion.
Promoter Don King stands to make more money if Lewis is not champion. That's led to claims that the fight was fixed. He insisted to me it was completely fair.
The fight is not fixed. You know, they know that these are judges that are appointed by people from world bodies. You know, I don't even know who they are.
Despite the outcry, the Briton among the three judges stands by his decision.
I was chosen as a fair British referee and with integrity, and I've still got that integrity. I don't feel you should judge me on my integrity. I've done what I saw, and you can only do what you saw. And if I made a mistake, and it's an honest mistake, that's the best mistake you can make.
But the mayor of New York says both boxing and the city have been damaged.
I'm very embarrassed by this. I'm glad the governor is going to investigate it. I hope they get to the bottom of what happened.
So Lennox Lewis will get another shot at the title, possibly within 6 months. He thinks he should be taking it back to Britain with him this week. Most people here agree. John Draper, ITN, New York.
Tonight's headlines again. A renegade loyalist group say they murdered a leading human rights lawyer in a car bomb attack in Northern Ireland. And the entire European Commission is teetering on the brink of mass resignation. And now for a look at what's making tomorrow's newspapers. The Mail goes with our lead story, the murder of the Northern Ireland lawyer Rosemary Nelson. The Express does the same and poses a question. The Times focuses on the story we reported about Jack Santa and the crisis of the European Commission. And The Sun has the first photo of Posh Spice, David Beckham and their son Brooklyn. And that's the ITV Nightly News tonight. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow. From all of us here, good night.
Hello, good evening. We've had sunny skies across much of England and Wales today, but it's been a different story across Scotland and Northern Ireland. As you can see on a satellite picture, a broad band of cloud across the north and west today, and through this evening that cloud's been spreading into other southern and western parts of Britain too. We may see one or two spots of rain crossing Wales and the Midlands through this evening and tonight, but then